I love making pretty colors and really enjoy it when they show up in my paintings. But eventually, I feel like I need to move beyond the pretty into something a little more substantial, what I call beautiful color. Sound familiar? Well, in this video, I'm going to walk you through my thought process in one particular painting and talk about how I move from the pretty color to the ugly color and ultimately to something that I consider beautiful. Hey everyone, welcome to Whole Artist Mastery. I'm Marianne Mitchell. I created Whole Artist Mastery to help artists like you understand what it means to make whole art and how that makes you a whole person and ultimately how you can contribute this energy to the whole world. So if you liked this video, please subscribe to the channel and head on over to the wholeartistmastery.com website. Sign up for the mailing list so that you can get invited to free events that I offer. I'm really glad that you are here, so let's get started. I know from great personal experience how hard it is to let go of really pretty colors that make you feel so happy. But I know also that eventually I'm going to be much more sustained by a painting if the sense of color has depth and light in it, and ultimately holds a greater sense of meaning that goes beyond just the pretty. Now, if you're wondering what color depth and color light is, you can go look at video number 83, the composition of luminosity, and 84, which is all about color depth, so that you have an understanding of what I mean when I refer to color depth and color light. So I'm going to walk you through the development of one painting that goes from colors that, are really dark and sort of brooding, which I wanted to move away from, into very pretty colors, which, I was like, I want to move beyond pretty. That went to really ugly color and ultimately ended up with something that holds true beauty, at least in my personal opinion. So the first image that you're going to see of this painting, I started on a day when things were in great turmoil in our world, and I was unable to do anything but express that in a particular color palette, as you see. Now, I started this painting in Reckless Abandon, so if you're wondering what Reckless Abandon is, you can go to video 100 where I start a painting in Reckless Abandon to understand what that process is all about. So, although I actually kind of liked what happened in day one, I knew that I really wanted to move beyond that and move into a different energy a couple of months later. So the next image that you see, I came in, and now we're talking winter time. So at least where I live in the world, winter is cold and dark. And that's true in Philadelphia. But I love staring up in the dark, soon-to-be light sky early in the morning and seeing the stars and the moon if it's a clear morning. And it just fills me with this tremendous sense of peace. And I've been trying to capture that in various different paintings for a while. And what happens is that it's such a beautiful experience, but the colors end up being pretty. So how to move beyond the pretty to represent something that is a wholly beautiful experience. Now you're looking at the third image where I went from this deep, beautiful blue and into something that's a little more muted. I covered over the blue with kind of a whitish veil, and it's actually more representative of what I see in real life. And, I was like, oh, this is really like this. But there was this little part of me that was getting bigger and bigger with each day that went by that was saying, yeah, but this is kind of boring. I mean, it looks like a landscape. It looks like something that is recognizable. Now, you might be wondering, well, so what's wrong with that? Well, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, I wanted to push myself into new territory, into territory where the essence of the experience was informing the composition and the colors, as opposed to the composition and colors shouting out what the experience was. So now we're moving into the fourth image, where I realized that what I really needed to do in order to go where I wanted to go, I had to cover over all the color and get rid of the sense of landscape in the painting. So I came in and obliterated the horizon line, kind of the horizon line, and that remnant of beautiful blue in the previous image. And I thought, okay, so I'm on my way. I really think this is ugly. This is nowhere near what I want to be, and that's good. So I want you to really hear that it's so important to take a painting into territory that you really dislike, that you think is really ugly, so that you can keep going in search of something that is beautiful, that holds depth of meaning, so that you require yourself to move out of that seduction phase. The version that you're going to look at now is my attempt to bring in some sort of structure that pushes me out of the landscape horizon line concept. So I put in a line above the midpoint, cut it with a vertical line that comes down at an oblique angle, as well as on the left side, created another couple of shapes, and here I am with a composition that looks really familiar to me. Like, I've done this before. And what's important about me saying that is that I personally wanted to push myself into new territory. Somehow, what that territory is, I was unaware of, but I knew that I needed to go someplace, and I would recognize that new composition and new expression when it came about. The other thing about this version is that it lacks a sense of luminosity, which is important for me to have in all of my work. So I thought, okay, well, what do I need to do in order to create luminosity? Well, the opposite of blue is orange. So you create luminosity, as you'll see in video 83, by putting complementary relationships together. Orange and blue is one way to do that, variations of blue and variations of orange. But I really did want to do another orange and blue painting. I've done that, been there, done that quite a bit, want to move on. But then how to create luminosity? So as you see in this particular version, the orange came in, as well as a light color at the bottom. And you know what? There's luminosity in this painting. And I really considered saying, okay, this is, all right, we're here. This is good. But no, this is too familiar to me. So the next version that you're looking at now was me saying, goodbye, orange. Let me see if I can really stay away from orange. And so instead of having a direct orange, I created in the upper left quadrant a color that is made with orange. So it's kind of a olivey green, and in olive green you have yellow and red and green mixed in various different ways. That's a whole other subject. And so that's beginning to give light to the blue. Now, the next version, I'm starting to work on constructing a composition that is outside of what I typically do. And I also really wanted to have three main characters, three main compositional elements, so that the composition itself is somewhat simple and the complexity is in the color. You're looking at the final painting now, where the compositional structure is working together with the complexity of the colors to create something that, in my opinion, goes way beyond just pretty. It captures your attention, makes you want to look at it for a while. It makes you want to dive into that blue and travel around the orangey, burnt sienna, greens, aqua green, and stay there for a while. I titled the painting Framing Wonder for this very reason, because for me it captures that sense of wonder that I get when I'm staring up at the winter, early morning, dark to light sky, surrounded by the earth, and feeling this tremendous sense of deep peace and calm. Now, just a little aside about the story of this painting is that it recently sold to a new collector who I had been told was interested in a particular color palette. So I had a painting that, in my opinion, was still sort of unfinished, but had the colors that I was told by the art consultant that this particular client liked, which I considered pretty. So I took her the painting that had the pretty colors, and I took her a few other paintings, including Framing Wonder. And she chose Framing Wonder along with another painting precisely because she said, well, this one is really just pretty colors, but this one I could sit here and stare at for a really long time. I really hope this helped you understand the difference between pretty and beautiful, and how to move beyond the pretty to ultimately achieve beautiful. That you have to go into the ugly, get mucky in order to get beyond the surface. Kind of like life, right? Life is about dark and light, deep sorrow, deep ugly feelings, as well as very joyous and happy feelings. And that's what makes a whole life. And that's what makes a whole painting. Love to hear your comments. Leave comments and questions in the chat feed. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.